Hey, what's up my loves? My name is Mina. Welcome to my channel Mina Reads, and today we are going to be talking about all of my favorite books from 2021. We have this entire giant stack of books. It'll probably take me a while to talk about all these books, so maybe you should grab yourself a drink as well. And yeah, let's get into the books. But before we do, I do just want to thank today's sponsor, Glasses USA. Glasses USA is an amazing glasses brand that I've been wanting to try out for so long, so I was so happy when they reached out to me, and I can't wait to share them all with you. So essentially, Glasses USA is this amazing online glasses company that cuts out the middleman and offers you 9,000 options of prescription glasses and sunglasses. They have in-house brands like Muse and Amelia E, and they also have designer brands like Ray-Ban, Gucci, and Oakley, and they have these glasses for up to 70% off the retail price. You can shop all of your eyewear needs online at affordable prices without needing to leave your home, and you can get some glasses from them for as little as $30 with basic prescription lenses included. This brand is absolutely amazing, and I'm so obsessed with them, so I'm going to show you the glasses that they sent me. This is the first pair, and I'm absolutely obsessed with them. I think they're my favorite of the bunch that I got, and I'm going to show you the other ones as well. So I got these kind of like rose gold frames. They're circular like the other pair that I was wearing earlier, but I love them. They're really cute. And the final pair that I got is a little bit out there for me, and it gives me a little bit of like a hot librarian vibe. And they're the same shape as the other ones, but these ones have kind of like a animal print to them. And I'm gonna move a little bit closer, but these have like this animal print, and I love them. They're really cute. So shopping online with Glasses USA means a risk-free shopping experience. So they offer free shipping and returns. They offer 100% money-back guarantees, as well as a 365-day product warranty. They also have this really awesome prescription scanner app, so that if you are someone who, like me, has trouble with keeping track of your prescription and like having it handy, they have a way that you can scan your current glasses and it can like read the prescription off of them so that you can apply that to like your purchase. And that's just so helpful and so convenient, because I always misplace like the document that has my prescription on it. So bless them for that amazing service. It takes about 10 minutes to scan, and then you can go directly into your shopping experience on their website. It's amazing. I highly recommend it if you're someone who is forgetful or misplaces things very often like me. Also, they have this really awesome virtual try-on tool on their website, so that you can just upload a picture of yourself and you can try different glasses on to see which ones are going to suit your face. And I just love that, because obviously it's an online service, so it's not like you can just try them on in the store and see if they work. So I love having that option of just being able to test it out and see what frames are going to look the best on you. So there's like a better chance of you really loving your purchase, and I'm obsessed with that. So thank you so much to Glasses USA for sponsoring this video. Please do check them out in the link in my description for all of your glasses and eyewear needs. Let's get into these books. Really excited to share them with you. I've mentioned before, and prior to this video going up, you will probably see like my most disappointing and my worst books, and so I definitely had a lot of strongly negative feelings about a good amount of the books that I read this year, but I did also find some new favorites, and so I'm really excited to share some of this like positivity with you guys and hopefully give you guys some recs, because yeah, I really love these books a whole lot, and I definitely think that they deserve some more love. So let's get into them. So these books are in no particular order, but before we get into like my main list, I do just want to do a quick honorable mention, which is going to be The Atlas 6 by Olivia Blake. This is a really cool like fantasy dark academia story, and I don't want to say like too much about it, but it's essentially about this thing called the Alexandrian Society. And so this is a story about this group of 6 initiates who are recruited for the Alexandrian Society and like their year learning together. This book is so amazing. It's so interesting. Honestly, I've never read anything quite like it, and I absolutely love the setting of this. I love the writing, the prose, the characters were really strong. They were so interesting. In particular, I loved the 2 characters, Parisa and Tristan, as well as Nico. And then there's this character named Callum, who is like really interesting and complex. There's Raina, a bad bitch if I ever saw one, and there's Libby, who I have less strong feelings about, but like all the characters are really interesting. And this is really a story that is very much ruled by the character dynamics and the character interactions, and it's a very like interior novel, because even though it is about magic, I would say that primarily we're getting into the characters, like the inner workings of their mind and their interpersonal relationships and how that's influencing things for them at the society. But I absolutely love this book. It was so perfect for me. I just was eating it up. It was really, really good, and I can't wait to read the next book in this series. So it's definitely a favorite for me, but it's not like at the pinnacle. So the rest of these books are like amazing, like god tier, and this is just like very, very good, and I just had to tell you guys about it because I absolutely loved it. Oh, the first book on the main list that I'm going to tell you about is Act Your Age, Eve Brown by Talia Hibbert. This is the third book in the Brown Sisters trilogy, and I ate this up. This was one of the first books, like among the first few books that I read in 2021, and it has just stayed with me all year. I love Eve and Jacob so, so much. So Act Your Age, Eve Brown is about this girl, Eve Brown, who is the youngest daughter in a rich family, and she is just she has commitment issues, particularly when it comes to choosing a career path. She just really does not know what it is that she wants to do with her life, and so she's a bit all over the place, and she's constantly trying new careers and new passions, but she always kind of gives them up before she can commit too fully to them. So basically at the start of the story, she's like 28 or something, you know, she's kind of getting up there in years, and her family is like, listen, you need to get your life together. We are not going to continue paying your way all the time, and you need to figure out what you want to do with your life. So she ends up going for a drive. She's kind of angry, and she stumbles across this bed and breakfast, and they're hiring, but she ends up accidentally running over her prospective employer, Jacob, and so he does hire her for the position, but she has to like help him run the bed and breakfast and not just be the chef. She has to help him run the bed and breakfast because he's injured. And this book is so, so good. It is such a funny like workplace comedy, but at the same time it is a really interesting like character exploration. I thought that Eve was just such an amazing character, and I, like her, definitely have commitment issues and like a fear of failure, and so I found her to just be like really, really relatable, and I just absolutely loved her. She was so adorable, she was so funny, and her relationship with Jacob, the love interest, he is so cool. He was just such a great character. He was so funny, and him and Eve, they're very much like an opposites attract kind of vibe. So Eve is kind of like the sunshine to his grump, and they were just so good together. They were so adorable, and I absolutely love them. And also this book was spicy, like much, much spicier than I expected. And if you have read this book, you will know what I'm talking about, but M'Baku is so fucking iconic and next level, and Talia Hibbert should be applauded for what she's done here. You know, like, she's just that girl. This book was amazing. I absolutely loved it. One of my favorite couples probably of all time. I think about them all the time, and honestly I can't wait to reread this book. So it might need to happen like pretty soon, because it's already like January 3rd that I'm filming this, and I have not been having all that much luck when it comes to reading thus far this year, so maybe it's time for a reread. So up next we do have another romance, and that is Sinister by KJ Charles. Now this is a queer Regency romance, and this book is so fucking good, and I honestly can't believe that I haven't really heard almost anybody talking about it. I had never seen anyone on BookTube read it, and I kind of read it spur of the moment because I needed an audiobook to listen to, and Scribd recommended it to me, so I was like, okay, you know, sure, whatever, I'm gonna click it. And guys, this book is so, so good. So this is, as I said, a queer Regency romance. It's about these two characters, Sir Philip Rookwood and this guy, his name is Guy Frisbee. So basically they are kind of neighbors. They have like adjacent properties, and one day Guy's younger sister Amanda, she ends up getting injured, and so her leg is like broken, and they can't transport her back to her and Guy's estate, so she ends up needing to stay with Sir Philip Rookwood. But this is like a huge deal because Sir Philip has a very bad reputation. He's a rake, he's an atheist, he's all these different types of things, and also everyone in like the community knows that he has this group of friends. They call themselves the Murder, and everybody believes that they like have orgies and like kill people or something. Like, they have this really terrible reputation in the community. So it's a whole huge deal that Guy and his sister have to stay with Sir Philip Rookwood for a short time. And this is basically a story about Guy having his mind kind of opened and expanded to new thought patterns and ideas and experiences, and Guy and Philip's relationship is just so good. I absolutely love Philip. He's fucking hilarious. Guy is so cute and so sweet and so innocent, and I feel like this is another book with kind of the opposites attract vibe, because Guy is like very wholesome and innocent and kind of naive, and then Philip is very worldly and confident and sexual, and I don't know, it's just something about the way that they interact with each other is really fun and interesting, and it's just so awesome. And this book is like incredibly queer. Philip, his whole friend group is like a bunch of queer men, and they have just been friends for years, and they spend time at like his country estate to get away from the rest of society so that they can like be themselves and be open with their partners and stuff. And I just absolutely love this. Like, it was so good, it was so fun, it was so funny, it was wholesome, it was sweet, it was sexy, it was super queer and amazing, and I just love it. Definitely the best historical romance I have ever read, and I highly recommend it. Like, it was just so good. Alright, so then we have A Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson, and I just adored this book so much. I feel like you guys have probably heard about this book a lot because it's been getting a lot of hype on BookTube recently, but this is a Brides of Dracula retelling, and we're basically following this character Constanza, who is the first bride of Dracula, and this is basically about how Dracula over the years kind of builds this harem, and how Constanza and the other brides are in this like very unhealthy, very toxic relationship with Dracula. So this story is really kind of like a meditation on abusive relationship dynamics. So I wouldn't go into this thinking it's a romance. I feel like some people kind of sell it like it's like, oh, it's like this gothic vampire romance, and like it's not. There are definitely romantic elements, and there are some like high points and some good relationships in this book, but this is very much like a meditation on as I said, abuse and kind of revenge, and I absolutely adored this. I thought that the writing was so gorgeous, so lyrical. I would highly recommend listening to the audiobook if you can. It is so beautifully narrated, but the prose in this is absolutely gorgeous. The characters are amazing, and I just loved it. It was just so incredible, and just was such an interesting take on like the Dracula myth, story, folklore, whatever. It was great. I absolutely adored it, and I would highly recommend it if you're looking for something short but impactful and like very beautifully lyrically written. Alright, so up next we have Golden Sun by Pierce Brown, which is the second book in the Red Rising trilogy. And the Red Rising trilogy is about this character named Darrow. Basically, he is a red in this color-based like dystopian society where reds are at the bottom of society and then golds are at the top. And essentially some stuff happens in Darrow's life, and some really bad tragic stuff happens in Darrow's life, and he's kind of lost all hope, and he realizes that the reds have been deceived their entire lives thinking that they are doing this really important and impactful work like terraforming Mars so that humanity can come and colonize Mars because Earth is dying, but that ends up all being a lie and a sham, and the reds are basically being used for slave labor. And so once Darrow discovers this, he is recruited by this organization called the Sons of Ares to become this kind of like undercover agent in Golden Society to upend the society from the inside. And so he is transformed into a gold, and he's trying to like matriculate through the Golden Society, infiltrate like the leadership structure, and destabilize their like whole power system essentially. So this second book is kind of about Darrow's goals, trying to achieve that, enmeshing himself into the society and trying to kind of destabilize certain things. But this is just a truly fantastic book. Like, it is so well written. I think that Pierce Brown is just kind of a genius. The way that he writes is so cinematic, and his prose is also really beautiful. Like, the way that Darrow thinks is very poetic and lyrical, and like is really interesting. He's very over dramatic and very emotional, and so his inner monologue is like very poetic, very overwrought. But I absolutely love Pierce Brown's prose in this, and I also think that the way that Pierce writes his action scenes and stuff is just incredibly cinematic. And so this book was just, there was so much stuff going on. There was so many incredible character moments. There was so much expansion of the world, and it was just fantastic. It was fantastic. There were so many truly iconic scenes in this, and I absolutely adored this book. If you're looking for something dark and kind of gritty and gruesome, but also just kind of amazing and action-packed and really interesting, I recommend it. All right, up next we have The Beautiful Ones by Silvia Moreno Garcia. Nobody is more surprised than me to see this book on this list, because the only Silvia Moreno Garcia I previously read was Mexican Gothic, and I was kind of disappointed by that book. I didn't really love it. I gave that book like 3 stars. But this book was so absolutely perfect for me. So I would recommend this if you are a fan of like Regency stories. If you like Jane Austen, you know, you like Emma, you like Pride and Prejudice, I feel like there's a very high probability that you will like this book because it has that very similar vibe. So this is a historical fantasy. So we're following these two characters, Nina Bolu and Hector. I can't remember what Hector's last name is, but we're following Nina and Hector, and basically both Nina and Hector are telekinetics, and so they end up meeting at this party. There's like a ball. They meet at the party. Nina is very infatuated with Hector right off the bat because he is actually like a famous telekinetic performer, and so she knows about him. She's read about him in the papers before. She's very enamored by him, and essentially they begin courting, and so this is about them and their relationship. But the gag is Hector actually a long time ago was in a relationship with Nina's older cousin Valerie, and he is still very much in love with Valerie, and so he's kind of doing this courting rituals with Nina simply so he can get closer to Valerie again. And this story is full of so much drama and angst, and is so beautifully written, and I absolutely love the characters. They're so complex and messy, and I just feel like if you like drama and you like historical romance and you like the kind of like novel of manners vibe of like a Jane Austen type of story, I think you will absolutely adore this. I loved it. I cried. It was fan-fucking-tastic. I can't wait to reread it. And the month that I read this, because I believe I read this in like August, maybe. I think I read this in August. I reread the book like 3 times because it was just that good. I'd highly recommend the audiobook for this one as well. Just fantastic. Amazing on all levels. I can't say enough good things about it. But yeah, I would say just to note that this is not like some action heavy story. This is very character driven. It's not like plot driven, so it's a bit meandering, and we're really just experiencing these characters like visiting each other's houses and like going on walks and going on dates and stuff like that. So I wouldn't say to go into it expecting like some insane plot or anything. It's a very like, you know, slow and interior kind of narrative, but I absolutely adored it. I ate it up. It was just fantastic to me. Highly recommend checking it out. So next we have The 5th Season by N.K. Jemisin. This book is so amazing, so iconic, so next level, that I just feel that like a lot of people do not appreciate N.K. Jemisin's genius. So I know a lot of people who have read this book, they start it and they're like, oh my god, this book is so confusing, blah blah blah. If you have read The 5th Season, or you began reading The 5th Season and you found that it was too confusing for you to understand, I would highly recommend starting it over and just keep reading. Just keep reading, keep pushing through, because it's confusing for a reason, and that reason pays off so incredibly well. So I would definitely recommend trying it again. If you've read it before and you just were like, I don't know if I can do it, just read it. Just read it. I promise you, it's amazing. You're gonna love it. So The 5th Season is a dystopian fantasy story that follows this country called the Stillness, and the Stillness is ironically named because it is constantly racked by earthquakes and other natural disasters. And we have this collection of people called Origines who have like earth magic essentially, and they are kind of a subjugated class, but their magic is used to stabilize the country. And so we have multiple different POVs in this book. We have a character called Cyanite. She is an Origine who works at the Fulcrum, and the Fulcrum kind of like deploys Origines across the country to stabilize different natural disasters. Then we have a woman named Esun who is searching for her daughter, who was kidnapped by the daughter's father. She's worried about the daughter. She thinks that she's not safe, so she's on the hunt for her daughter. And then we have another POV, a young girl named Demaya, who is just discovering that she is an Origine, and she is being taken to the Fulcrum for training. So we're following these 3 different POVs, and we get to see all of the different ways that Origines are treated in this society. But this book is so fantastic. I don't know if I've ever read a book that does world building so incredibly well, that does foreshadowing so well, that has such interesting, complex, messy characters and character dynamics. It just was fantastic on like so many levels, and I can't recommend it enough. And I really think that if you read this book, or you began to read it and like you got deterred by the prologue, because the prologue is told in second person, and I understand that second person is not something that a lot of people like, and it's not, and it kind of made for like a confusing reading experience for some people. Get past the prologue. I promise you, read the prologue, get past it, and then get into the story. It is not that difficult to understand. I would highly recommend listening to an audiobook as well if you think that that might help, because the audiobook is very brilliantly narrated. But This book is so good, and I understand that the beginning is confusing. I really do understand that, but the more you read, the more it makes sense and the better it gets. And this book is just absolutely fantastic. So I can't recommend it enough, and I really want more people to give it a shot, because I know that I've seen countless people say, oh, this book was too confusing, I just couldn't get through it. You can get through it, and it will be worth it, I promise. The next one that we have, I don't think anybody's going to be surprised. This is probably on everyone's best books of the year list, but People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry is an absolutely fan-fucking-tastic novel, and Emily Henry is just kind of that girl. Like, she really is. So People We Meet on Vacation is a story about Poppy and Alex. Poppy and Alex are college best friends, and they have made this pact that every summer they go on vacation together, and it's just kind of their thing. And basically, as the story starts out, we see that Poppy and Alex have drifted apart. There's some kind of like unnamed conflict that occurred a few summers ago, and they just have kind of drifted apart, and they are no longer as close as they once were. But Poppy, she's kind of in a weird place in her life, and she's trying to remember like what it is that really brings her joy and happiness in life, because she's very discontent. Even though she has a good job and things should theoretically be going well, she's just very unhappy. So she's thinking back to a time in her life where she was happy, and that time was when her and Alex were close and when they would have their yearly vacations. So this story is told in the present timeline. Alex and Poppy are attempting to reconnect over one last summer vacation together, and the past storylines where we get to see like their previous vacations with one another. This book is absolutely beautiful. The characters in this story are just so well crafted and so well realized. They are complex, and I love them so much, and I just absolutely love the way that Emily Henry did this story. Like, I think that she has kind of perfected the friends to lovers formula, because she brilliantly shows you how these two people became friends and what their friendship was like, and there's so much pining and angst, and it's really beautiful, and it's just such a convincing friends to lovers romance. I have found it very hard to find friends to lovers romances where I really feel convinced about how these friends make that leap from friendship to like romantic feeling, and I think that Emily Henry just does that beautifully, and it's so well done. It's just perfect. It's perfectly paced. Like, this was just iconic, and this is maybe the only book that I've ever read that included like a dual timeline, flashbacks and flash forwards, that I actually enjoyed. It was so good. I loved it. Emily Henry is really that girl. I cannot wait to read her new book that's coming out this year, Book Lovers. I'm sure it's going to be amazing. But yeah, this was fantastic. Just so good on all levels, and I would highly recommend it if you have not read it already. But the hype is real, and the hype is valid, because this book is amazing. Okay, so then we have Honey Girl by Morgan Rogers, and another book that I just absolutely loved. So stunning. So one thing to know about me as a reader is that I really love very dramatic, sometimes cheesy, kind of overwrought prose. I love that, and this book definitely fulfilled that for me. So Honey Girl is about this girl named Grace Porter. She is about 28, I think. She's just finished her PhD in astronomy, and basically she's feeling a little bit lost in life. She doesn't know what her next moves are going to be. She's trying to get a job. She's having some difficulty breaking into the industry, and so she's just kind of experiencing burnout, academic burnout from being in school for so long, and just kind of emotional burnout. She doesn't know what she's doing with her life, where she's going. So she ends up going on this vacation to Vegas with her friends, and on this Vegas vacation she ends up waking up married. And this is about, I don't want to say that this story is solely about Grace and her new wife, because it's not, but Grace and her wife, they play a huge role in the story, and this relationship with her new wife is like a big deal, and I absolutely loved it. So good. But I feel like this is really a story, like, this is a coming of age story about like an older protagonist, and I absolutely love that, because I feel like, you know, people don't just finish developing, like they don't turn 21, graduate college, and have their life all figured out. And so I loved getting to deal with this character who's like in her mid to late 20s, you know, trying to figure out like where she's going in life, what she's doing, and it was just amazing. It was so beautifully written to me. I absolutely love the writing in this. I loved Grace's relationship with her wife that she ends up married to. Just so good. Her wife's name is Yuki, and I adored Yuki. She was so amazing, so iconic. This book also has a very wonderful like found family vibe. The friendship group in this is just so interesting, and I love them, and I just enjoyed this. I enjoyed this book so much, and I just thought it was fantastic. So I would highly recommend it if you're someone who enjoys like really pretty prose, you enjoy a kind of angsty protagonist, and you want to read about like a cute sapphic relationship. Like, I would recommend checking this out. Okay, so the last three that I have to discuss are high fantasies. So I guess I will discuss these two in tandem. So we have The Last Argument of Kings by Joe Abercrombie and A Little Hatred by Joe Abercrombie. So if you have been following my channel, you will know that 2021 was the year of Joe Abercrombie for me. Joe Abercrombie is just my fantasy king. He's really that guy. Like, he's really that guy. There's no other way for me to really describe it, but Joe Abercrombie is just so fucking iconic on so many levels. He just works for me. But what I will say specifically about these two books and why they're all my best books of the year, so The Last Argument of Kings is the final book in the First Law trilogy, which is like the first era, and then A Little Hatred is from the second era, which is called the Age of Madness trilogy. So the First Law trilogy is a adult grimdark fantasy series where we're following a number of different characters, the main POVs being Glokta, Logan, Giselle, and then there are a few other like side characters who also have POVs, like Farrell Malgin, Colum West, and the Dogman. So we have a few other POVs, and basically we're following this group of people as they are navigating like some tumultuous times in this country called the Union. So this wizard called Baez, he brings together this collection of people to go on a journey with him, and we're trying to figure out like what the point of the journey is, where we're going, what we're doing. And then on the opposite side, we have this character Glokta, who he works in the government, and he is kind of a torturer, and his position is superior Glokta. So he kind of works as like a cop, a torturer. He has this weird, you know, this weird position in society, but he is tasked with a bunch of different things, including the protection of this particular city, and there's like a war going on. It's a whole bunch of stuff happening, but at the same time nothing is happening, and you have no idea where the story is going or where it's going to end up. But this third book, it just brings the whole story together in perhaps the most masterful way I have ever seen in anything ever. So if you are the type of person who has the patience for a very slow burn fantasy, I would recommend it, because this final book is just so fucking fantastic in the way that it brings everything together. The way that Joe Abercrombie writes characters, writes character dynamics, the way that he writes dialogue and banter is amazing, iconic. The way that he writes battle scenes and fight scenes, iconic, amazing. We love it, we stand. And Joe Abercrombie is just so fucking cool. Like, I don't know how else to describe it, because it's not one of those series where it has like a strong plot line that's super easy to follow, but it's amazing, it's iconic, it's fantastic. We love it, we stand. And in that same vein, I absolutely adored A Little Hatred, which is like the second era of First Law, and this follows the next generation. So as I mentioned, there's like this character Glokta in the first trilogy, and in this we're following his daughter Savine, and basically the Union is undergoing their period of like industrial revolution. So this book is about the industrial revolution and the problems that it brings, because the Union is just coming off of like decades-long wars with multiple different people. They were at war with some people in the north, they were at war with the Gurkish, they were at war with these people called Styria, and so it's like this very war-torn country full of returning soldiers and a lot of like disgruntled workers, as this is an industrial revolution story. So this is kind of a series about like revolution in a number of different ways, and I absolutely love the main characters in A Little Hatred. Listen, read A Little Hatred for complex, messy, evil people. Read it for the girl bosses. Read it for the himbos. Read it for the anti-capitalism. Read it for the revolutionary aspects. Read this shit. It is iconic on so many levels, and Joe Abercrombie is really that guy, and it was just everything. It was so funny, so emotional, so complex and messy, and I just love how he writes about villainy. Like, his characters are not good people, but you still love them and root for them in some aspects, and you want them to get better, but you know that they won't, and it's just so fucking amazing. And Joe Abercrombie is really just that guy. I don't know what else to say. You should read this book. It's amazing, like truly amazing. One of my favorite books that I've read ever, and it's just such a great series. It's so great. All right, and finally we have Jade Legacy by Fonda Lee, another iconic finale. So Jade Legacy is the final book in the Greenbone Saga. Greenbone Saga follows this family called the Calls, and the Calls are kind of like this mafia family, and in this country called Kekon, they, along with another family, the Ayat family, control this bioenergetic jade, and this jade gives people like kind of magical abilities. So essentially we have these two really powerful mafia families who control like all aspects of this country's economy, and they are at war with each other for the like controlling share of this natural resource. And we're seeing this war play out between these two families and how their like interpersonal war is affecting the politics and the evolution of the country of Kekon. And this series spans like a really long period of time, especially this book, which spans about 30 years worth of time. And Fonda Lee is just absolutely that girl. The way that she does the familial dynamics in this series, the way she does the politics, is iconic. The way that the magic works and the way that it influences like social relationships and the way that their society functions as a whole is just so well done, so well crafted. I have never seen a finale chart such a large amount of time and still do it so flawlessly. I feel like she just did this time jump so well, and it was amazing. So as a result, we get to see our initial era of characters, not era, but like we get to see our initial main characters, which would be Hilo, Andon, Shay, and a few others, and we get to see them in like another generation of the family and how that new generation plays into the politics of this world, and it's just so good. It's honestly just truly such a fantastic series. Yeah, so I would say if you're interested in like really complex family dynamics, if you enjoy mafia stories, if you like stories kind of about revenge, about politics, and lots of like social commentary, if you enjoy that kind of thing, I would highly recommend this series to you. It's so amazing, so iconic, and I love these characters beyond words. And Hilo is still my guy. I will love him probably forever. One of my favorite characters of all time. He is just such a complex little shitty man, and I absolutely love him so much. And he's just the best person. He's the best person. I don't know what else to tell you, and I will love him forever. He's my husband for real, and I'm gonna stick beside him no matter what he do. I'm gonna stick beside him. So this is the best series. I absolutely love it. Greenbone Saga, one of my favorite series of all time, and I just was so blessed to be able to get this copy, which is an ARC, and I just feel so happy. This is like one of my prized possessions because this series has meant so much to me over the past few years, and it's just so good. And so I'm happy that I read the finale and that it was amazing and I loved it. So yeah. So that is all of my favorite books of 2021. I would love to hear what books you read in 2021 that you really enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching this video, and thank you to Glasses USA for sponsoring it. Again, check out the link in my description for all of your eyewear needs. And yeah, I will see you all in my next one, hopefully. Bye, you guys. Like, comment, and subscribe. And a special thank you to all of my wonderful patrons.